Hello and welcome to this presentation on the linguistic validation of the ArmA into Welsh. I'm Dr. Llinos Spencer and I work as a research officer for Llais, which is part of the North Wales Trials Unit, Enworth, at Bangor University. Llais has been working with BraichG University Health Board to linguistically validate the ArmA into Welsh, with assistance from members of the public and Professor Delyth Prys from Canolfan Bedwyr, Bangor University. Dr. Stephen Ashford is the author of the English measure and works in universities and hospitals in London. Stroke measures are increasingly used in the Welsh NHS to help monitor patients' health status in order to organise treatment. In the bilingual context of Wales, health questionnaires are required in Welsh as well as English. The Language Awareness Infrastructure Support Service, Llais, based at Enworth, Bangor University, is tasked with increasing the availability and accessibility of Welsh language versions of health measures for Health and Care Research Wales. Linguistically validating a measure into Welsh is a long process. There has to be parative meaning, and group comparisons should reflect true group differences rather than linguistic discrepancies or cultural bias in translation. The ArmA activity measure, ArmA, was one of the 3 stroke measures to be linguistically validated into Welsh for clinicians at BraichG University Health Board. The other 2 measures were the leg activity measure, leg A, and the stroke impact scale. This study focuses exclusively on a step-by-step systematic approach to the linguistic validation of the Welsh language version of the ARM activity measure, the ArmA, questionnaire used by stroke services in the NHS in England and Wales. You can see mecum.org for more details on the translation guidelines, including forward and backward translation, consensus review and cognitive testing. The main aim of this work was to establish a Welsh language version of the ArmA outcome measure through undertaking the translation and linguistic validation of a Welsh language version of the ArmA measure to benefit the clinical as well as research context, and making the Welsh version of the ArmA measure available on the interactive web resource mecum.org, to aid accessibility for clinicians and researchers. As well as professional translators, a language terminologist, and healthcare professionals, 7 members of the Rhoi Llais database gave their opinion on a version of the Welsh language ArmA in focus group sessions to ensure clarity of the questions. Changes were made to the wording based on these discussions and final comments from Llais and the language terminologist. The example changes are shown on the next slide. But on this slide you can see members of Rhoi Llais, who are public representatives, giving their opinion on a version of the ARM activity measure during one of the focus groups. Some of the changes to the final version were very small. For example, the short title of the measure was changed from Braich to BraichG, because that is more correct, because Gweithgaredd is the Welsh word for activity, therefore Mesur Gweithgaredd Braich. Activity measure can be shortened to BraichG in Welsh. In one of the questions, we accepted the inclusion of the word balance because it's more widely used than cydbwysedd, which may not be as familiar to some Welsh speakers. We also decided that it would be acceptable to use both North Walian and South Walian terms for key, so we included goriad and allwedd to make it understandable to everybody in Wales. Since March 2020, the Welsh version of the ArmA has been available for practitioners and researchers to use in Wales. It is hoped that this free-to-use tool will be of benefit in designing treatment for Welsh-speaking stroke survivors in Wales. The Llais linguistic validation work makes significant contribution towards establishing robust systems to ensure conduct and delivery of clinical trials of the highest quality that meet regulatory and government requirements, while advancing methodological approaches of international significance. To date, 46 outcome measures are listed on the mecom.org website, and around 43 of these have been linguistically validated by Llais in the Enworth Trials Unit, and we've hugely appreciated support and contribution from members of the Rhoi Llais database. If you have any queries, please contact either myself, Dr. Llinos Spencer, or Mrs. Beryl Ann Coolidge, who is the Llais Director. Beryl can be reached on the following email, which is b.coolidge@bangor.ac.uk, and my email is l.spencer@bangor.ac.uk. The references for today's presentation are shown on this slide. Thank you very much for listening.